This is the Duke of Doom, part 24. Now, the thing that I mentioned here is that they've been using what we call an advanced, higher level form of paganism. The average pagan is just someone who buys a lot of different trinkets and likes to listen to different mythologies and get on with everyday life. In fact, you'll find that people everywhere, regardless of their religion, are trying to behave themselves as best as they can in a society. They are confronted with a lot of things they don't understand, and they are semi-spooked by a lot of things that they cannot see. That leads to a kind of a malaise, almost a nausea of mentality. But as they get higher up, the enemy has learned how to render the human mind dysfunctional. It's been one of his major onslaughts during this whole time. In fact, if they never produce this chip, if it's simply maybe a barcode that's tattooed on the wrist or the forehead, or some other thing that happens, they still have been performing this mind destruction. You see, this has been the big characteristic of the born-again Christian, who is really able to stand on the rock Jesus and have a foundation in the Lord. They can operate anywhere, anytime, with or without a collective. It is really the epitome of individuality. You see, God is the only one who can really work with individuals. Contrary to what the propaganda teaches, the diatribe of the witches, and worse, the devil worshippers, they're the higher level, the inner circle, as it were, that have been around since the days of Cain. Actually, probably around even before they were human beings. And that is that these circles, you see, are highly dependent on a collective, and yet they're also dependent on power struggles in order to maintain dominance. But the true Christian can function all alone if need be, with only God. As is, well, a very good picture of that was Father Moses before he began his ministry. First, he was out there in the wilderness with a bunch of sheep and the Lord, the man who turned down the high office of Pharaoh. And spent 40 years in the wilderness with God. Does that mean you should seek to be alone? No. But it does mean that you cannot be yoked together with unbelievers, whether they be in the guise of Christianity, false Christianity, or any other. Now, the hallmark of the false Christian is traditions and rituals. Jesus mentioned that by their traditions they brought to naught the counsel of God. And it's very easy for an infiltrator to assume any ritualistic tradition and be the most accomplished practicer of ritualism. And when they do that, the tenets of that religion will then tend to extol that individual and claim him to be very dedicated. They'll measure the dedication by how much ritualism they perform, because it's a great camouflage. So the disturbing element here is that they wouldn't hesitate to use this. They don't care how damaging it is. And by this I mean a lobotomy, an electromechanical lobotomy installed in a very safe and easy surgical procedure. Now, everybody and his uncle are going to be out there getting this thing because they want to be able to afford the next meal. That's the difference between worldliness and true faith. True faith trusts the Lord even if that next meal never comes. And then it does come. And, the thing is, I remember one time, my meal came out of the sky. Now, they have a term in sci-fi, some sci-fi, fi on science, right? Some sci-fi guys have a mice in the pies, where they call it a replicator. You just go up and say, I'll have a side order of hash browns, and there it is. It's replicated. They have dinner. In this case, since it was after midnight on Easter Eve, I was out there witnessing, and I was kind of hungry, and I had no money. But there was a Kentucky Fried Chicken place still open, and it was out in a posh part of London, where the American franchises were very successful throughout Europe as well. And Colonel Sanders had this tenet, or this kind of compassion for people who could not afford a meal. Quite often, he would instruct apparently from what I could tell, he would instruct some of his earlier franchises that if they had food left over that hadn't gone bad, but they weren't able to sell it, that they could donate some of it to homeless or hungry people. And many a times I was given some fried chicken in different parts of the world, but this particular London branch couldn't give me the fried chicken, and I had already asked the Lord for some Colonel Sanders Kentucky Fried Chicken. So I was sitting out there at some cafe furniture that was outside on the street, quite some distance away from the franchise, when a bag of Colonel Sanders Kentucky Fried Chicken fell out of the sky and did a soft landing on the street. And I went over and picked it up, and there were 2 pieces of fresh chicken, already cooked, and some other stuff in there, and one chicken for me and one for my partner who was out there witnessing with me. The Lord always saw to it that we went 2 by 2. Chicken from heaven? Well, who knows? Maybe somebody threw it out a window, but however it got there was still a miracle. The point is, you step out by faith, and it's a rip-roaring ride, but after a passage of time of 10 or 20 years, you find you're still there, and you're still healthy. And you haven't been out there buying or selling. You've just been out there doing the calling, the ministry. For me, it was one-to-one witnessing. Well, you can see that if you just keep working with the Lord and let him help you develop that faith, that is going to be one of your best ways to prepare for any event like this. But to the average person, they've never even entertained that sort of thought. It's going to be a weird type of observation to see people choose between heaven and the next meal. Because if they get the mark in order to get their next meal, they'll be choosing hell. And they will have lost their souls. There seems to be something very important about the way the brain is constructed. The human brain has a lot to do with the whole construction of the body, and maybe even the soul, which some believe to be seated in the area of the solar plexus, just behind the stomach muscle. But we don't know about that. We didn't have time to do the science. You can just imagine this $3 million laboratory trying to find out where the soul's located in the human anatomy. Just to prove there is a soul would cause such a controversy that the operation would be shut down in overnight by the very, very virulent proponents of evil that permeate throughout the world at any given time throughout history. So, these people will stop at nothing. They will do that at the drop of a hat. Well, why haven't they done it yet? Because in order to do this and get away with it, they're going to have the Duke of Doom come in. Now, one of the things it mentions about him in the book of Daniel is that it mentions that he shall cause craft to prosper. And as much as he doesn't like them, as much, almost as much as he hates the true Christians. He's going to be very good at disguising this. He's going to be so demon-possessed and so powerful that the best poker player in the world won't be able to read his poker face. This guy will be able to lie and look a person in the eye. The only thing a real person who can discern spirits will be able to tell is that this guy is demon-possessed as hell. But anyway, that's what they need in order to be able to get away with something on this level. Now, they can get away with the African technique of lobotomy using drums as a regular driving thing. Finally, it causes a breakdown somehow of the synaptic function of the frontal lobe. Now, we don't have the science for that. Once again, who's going to come up with a lab that's going to say, hey, rock and roll is just as dangerous for you as smoking cigarettes? Well, maybe they've gotten away from rock and roll by now. I don't know. I've heard they're getting more towards the new age music, but that's not what I want to talk about right here, although that is a kind of lobotomizing characteristic. They've used... Now, one of the things about this, their craft really is a lot of knowledge. A lot of knowledge on how to destroy things. And that's their fruit, and how you shall know them is destruction. But they have to have the Duke of Doom in place. Without the duck, they'll run amok. So what's going to happen is that, you see, then they're really going to be working to promote this. And, a lot of people are going to go for it. They'll probably have a way to make the procedure so safe that it's, there is a very safe procedure where they can operate. And my mother, before she died, had this operation on her eye to eliminate cataracts. After she had the operation, she didn't even need glasses. And it was a wonderful thing for her. In her last days, she could be able to see very clearly. And it was a very simple operation. And when people went in to do this, they really weren't afraid of failure. on this. It was almost certain, almost 100% safe. Now, in this case, with something like this, it's very easy to make it that way if they have the science for it. Let's take a break in the breakers.